For years, I have doubted the hype behind custom mechanical keyboards, but after building inside the QK80MK2, I don't think I could ever go back. The difference is absolutely mind-blowing. In the past, I've always bought into the hype behind companies like Razer and Corsair, but after going through about 7 of their keyboards in the past decade, they all had one thing in common, and that's that none of them felt premium in even the slightest way. And other than some of them having clicky switches, they really just felt like any other generic keyboard that you'd find in your office. So with that, I decided that the path forward was simple. I would invest countless hours, and I mean countless, into researching the best key switches, keycaps, and of course, keyboard bodies on the market, to build what I hoped would be the most premium typing experience possible. And through all of that research, I came up with the following. Every single one of the keyboards I've used has used the cherry profile for the keycaps, which feels super boring. So I looked into the MT3 profile, and trust me when I say it, these are life-changing. The way they cup your fingers is super satisfying, and nicely guides your hands as you type. It's honestly amazing to me that these are not more mainstream than they are. So I ended up picking up the Drop MT3 Jasmine keycaps, as these are a super high quality variant that uses double shot. So I'll never have the concern of the characters fading over time due to use, like what can happen on keycaps that have everything printed on them. Next, I looked into switches, which was a nightmare in my opinion, as the number of options was truly overwhelming, and I could not decide which ones made the most sense. After some digging though, I came across a company called Milktooth that carries a wide array of satisfying linear switches, and I ended up landing on the Huano Sakura key switches, which are not only high quality, but also incredibly well pre-lubed. And I know that tons of builders are against pre-lubed switches, but in my research, pre-lubed switches have come a long way in the past few years, and are just about as good as lubing them one by one. And plus, this is a massive time saver, as opposed to doing it on your own. And lastly, of course, I searched for the custom keyboard body, and this took by far the longest, as I wanted something that was high quality in its build, feature rich, but also not insanely overpriced, as some custom keyboards can go well in excess of $500. And that's not even including keycaps or key switches. So after some digging, I came across QwertyKeys, and was super impressed by their build quality right away, and relatively reasonable prices considering what you're getting. To narrow down my search, I decided that TKL was best for me, and landed on this board, the QK80MK2. This keyboard is unbelievably feature-rich, and has a few fun party tricks that are mostly a novelty, but does set this board apart from many others that are in a similar price range, with the biggest feature of them all being the customizable screens, which may seem gimmicky, but was actually super helpful during the build process, as this was my first custom keyboard. The coolest part in my opinion is the LED dot matrix. This came super in handy during the build, since it allowed me to test out all of my keys to make sure that I properly seated all the switches. And of course, the built-in larger LCD panel is a really cool touch. From allowing the uploading of custom images and GIFs, to literally allowing you to play games directly on the keyboard itself, it is a really unique touch that many keyboards simply don't have. Sure, playing on a 1-inch diagonal screen is not something you're going to do for an extended period of time, but I still feel that it is very impressive that all this can be done locally on the keyboard itself. So with all that, let's get into the build. To start, this is a pretty gorgeous looking board. It feels super premium, and honestly, the finish is just amazing. I'm really excited to get into this. So at the start by opening up the board itself out of the shrink wrap. Gonna need a knife. Okay, there we go. Yeah, the finish on this is unbelievably nice. Let's see if I can open this up. Okay. Harder than it seems, but we got it. Start taking a look at the PCB. All right, I'll get all the foams out of the way at the start. I think I could use this as a build surface, so I'll do that. Okay, so now we're going to lube the switches. So now we're going to lube the stabilizers. a little bit of lube on the bars. And a bit on the inside of the housings here. Okay. Nice. Okay, 2 more. This part sucks. So now we're going to put on the plate foam. The positioning plate. Okay. So now we're on to the lengthy process of installing all of the key switches. This can be a really big pain, and in my experience, it was really hard to get the key switch plate to line up. But eventually, once I did that and sort of mapped out all of the corners, I was able to put everything in. I'm definitely going to speed this up because it was an outrageously long process putting all these in. Next, we move on to assembly of the bottom board. This was just putting down a few layers of foam and plastic, and this part I'm speeding up as well because it was super hard to get this thing to lay down straight. And lastly, we have the key foam that goes under the PCB for a bit of extra support. Next, we line up the PCB onto the leaf springs, which give the PCB a nice cushiony feel, and this is one of the main standout features of this board. Then we put on the top cover, and we get to see the board come to life for the very first time. Here we could really appreciate the screwless design of the system, with magnets holding basically everything together. At this point, I did the check to make sure all the key switches were actually working, and knock wood, all of them did on the very first time. Then I went on to the last tedious task, which was applying every single keycap. With that, we are done, and we can get back to the final review. After a few weeks of using this keyboard, I have some thoughts. First and foremost, while I do believe that custom keyboards are superior to pre-built ones, and definitely worth the money, I don't think that building them yourself is necessarily for everyone. While I wouldn't say they're particularly difficult to build once you have all the components in front of you, there's still a bunch of stuff that you could easily break. Like the sockets, for example, if you aren't super careful. Not to mention the time it takes to research everything and ensure compatibility. And of course, end up with the feel that you want on this custom keyboard. For that reason, I actually recommend that your first mechanical keyboard is a pre-built one. Not from Razer or Corsair, but one that comes with the ability to hot swap switches, and maybe even insert case foam to improve the sound and feel. This right here is truly the best way to get into the hobby, as it lowers the skills needed and lets you find out what you personally like in a board before you go all in designing and ordering the parts and building it up from scratch. I've always been a fan of building my own stuff, like with my custom computers, and this of course is no different. The quality I was able to achieve with this keyboard truly does feel unmatched, especially when compared to any pre-built I have ordered over the years off the internet. But again, like everything else, all of these keyboards have come a really long way. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.